This is Distant Replay.
On this minisode of Distant Replay, we are going to go back to the glory days of the bowl season. Back when all the games happened over like a 4 or 5 day period where you'd wake up on January 1st, New Year's Day, maybe a little hungover, maybe a little sleep deprived, but you knew on the TV you're going to have games all day long. And then a national championship game that happened like the next day. You'd have to wait 2 weeks for the national championship. Those were the days. Welcome into Distant Replay. I am Ben George. He is Mike Noto. And people today, I mean, listen, it's all about the dollar, Mike. That's what it's all about. And that's why we have 40 bowl games. 40. I think 41 may be official. I don't know. You lose count. But essentially, everybody's got a record of 6-6 or better. And then sometimes not even that, get into a bowl game. But man, it used to be so much better than that.
I'm a sucker for tradition in sports, and I love bowl games. So what's happened to the bowl schedule is, over the years, is a big bone of contention with me.
So what year should we go back to kind of get a feel of how this schedule used to be? I mean, there's a number of years you can pick out, but I mean, even going back, what, 20, 25 years?
Yeah, let's go back to 95, the 95, 96 bowl games.
Let's look through the schedule. So I think the first thing you remember is like you had an early bowl game, right? But there was like that one game in the middle of the month that kind of whet your appetite a little bit. Yeah, so the conference championship games are like what, first week of December?
Yep. And you look at the bowl schedule and you're like, oh man, in 2 weeks we have, like, in this case, the Las Vegas Bowl.
Perfect.
Two pretty good teams. Remember, there's only 18 total bowls in 1995.
Right.
So even the teams that are in the Las Vegas Bowl are worth watching. Usually on at night, on ESPN, and just kind of a primer to get you ready, and it was something you look forward to. You were like, wow, it's a standalone game. And, people watched.
People definitely watched. And yeah, even for that year, a nice little overtime game, Toledo beat Nevada, ranked Toledo in that game as well. So you had the first game before Christmas, but there really wasn't anything else before Christmas, right? I mean, you didn't really start picking things up until Christmas, until New Year's. Like that week was the week for a college football fan.
Well, Christmas was always the Aloha Bowl, right? Other than the NBA, this Aloha Bowl was the only other thing that was on for sports on Christmas Day, unless the NFL happened to fall on Christmas Day. But the Aloha Bowl, you could always count on Christmas Day. And then the week in between Christmas Day and New Year's Day, if you're a bowl person and a college football person, there was nothing better because there were bowls on all day, every day.
Right. I mean, even looking at last year's schedule, because the 2020 bowl schedule is thrown a little off. There's games being canceled. Things have moved around. It's been very unique because literally 2 days after the conference championship games were played, there was a bowl game. So it felt really, really weird. But even going back just a year before this, you had like 9 games before Christmas Day. So you had I don't know if it's just when this happens so often, like anything, Mike, if you get too much of anything, it loses its luster. But I feel like that's kind of been the way the bowl games are played because there's some really good games. I mean, look, last year, New Year's Eve has become, and now New Year's Eve has become a pretty big bowl game day, but it still felt like back then, those were all still little bitty bites, little bitty appetizers to get you to January 1st.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, look, before Christmas Day, to be honest with you, I'm not really ready for bowls. You got a million things going on typically, right? Mm-hmm. On the lead up to Christmas. The week, it was perfect when a bulk of the bowls are that week in between Christmas and New Year's because it's typically a slower week. Even if you are working, you're probably not working as hard as you did the whole rest of the year. I specifically remember there not being a lot of games on New Year's Eve because people want to hang out on New Year's Eve. Right. So you had that perfect between the 26th and the 30th. Where should we go down sort of the list of games here? And you can let me know what your thoughts are. So we have the Copper Bowl, the Alamo Bowl.
See, let me stop you right there. The other great thing about the bowl season back then is you had like the bowl names. It wasn't, what's the Copper Bowl now? Copper Bowl now is the Cactus Bowl. You got the Cheez-It Bowl. You got all these games that are sponsored, and they've lost like that, the tradition and the legacy of these bowl names. But yeah, I mean, like go back to 95, No sponsors, man. Oh, I guess there was one. There was the CarQuest Bowl. But everything else was like the traditional old school, been around all of college football, Peach, Outback, all these games.
Yeah, Ben, let's cut to the chase here. December 29th, right? You at 2:30 you had the Sun Bowl, which is always played in an awesome stadium. I don't know what stadium that is, but it looks awesome there in El Paso, just the background it gets played in. At 5:30 p.m., you had the Independence Bowl in Louisiana, and 9 o'clock you had the Holiday Bowl in San Diego. Just those three games were, if you're a college football fan, there was no way you were missing them.
Yeah.
And they were spaced out enough where you could watch the whole game. You know, you had the Holiday Bowl that night, always when it was darker out in San Diego. The field, the grass is a little bit suspect because, you know, you got the Chargers playing on it. You got San Diego State playing on it. Now you have the Holiday Bowl. And it led to like usually big offensive explosions. You know, that example was just, you know, I missed that as a mainstay.
Yeah, even that 29th that year, you had Iowa in Washington in the Sun Bowl, which is played in the Sun Bowl, which is like the longest running bowl game until I think this year when it wasn't played because of COVID, unfortunately. But that one's got history to it. Then you had LSU, Michigan State, and then a number 10 Kansas State in the Holiday Bowl against Colorado State. So a great slate of games.
Yeah, just great. I mean, look at the teams we're mentioning here. LSU, Michigan State, Iowa, Washington, Kansas State, Colorado State, all Power 5 teams except for Colorado State. And I'm guessing that year Colorado State was the champion of the WAC or something? Is that why they were in that game? They must have been.
I don't know. Probably, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. And then, like on the 30th, you followed up with the Liberty Bowl, the CarQuest Bowl, which you mentioned, and the Peach Bowl, which is another staple, the Peach Bowl.
Yep. Tremendous. Even that year, too, you only had one game on New Year's Eve. But see, like once you got to the 30th, Mike, it was like, okay, all the lead-ins is gone. Now it's time to get to the big boy football.
And the big boy football was played on New Year's Day, and it should still be played on New Year's Day. And it really, really irks me when there's not a bunch of the good games on New Year's Day. Because when I think of New Year's Day, I think of waking up either as a younger kid really excited to watch the bowls or as an older person in a little bit of a fog from the night before, and knowing that I can just sit on my couch and watch some awesome college football. I can start out with the Outback Bowl, which is usually on like around 11 o'clock. That will ease me in to the Florida, to the Citrus Bowl, the Gator Bowl, and the Cotton Bowl, which are usually around like midday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which has like, you know, the second, third place teams in like the major conferences.
Right.
And it's all leading up to at 5 o'clock Eastern time. I'm there with Keith Jackson for most of my life in Pasadena for the Rose Bowl. I never miss the Rose Bowl.
Never
miss it. 5 o'clock. You're going to have dinner in a little while. Rose Bowl's on in the background. It doesn't get any better.
Then you cap it off at nighttime too with an Orange Bowl on top of it. I mean, I can go back to the 80, 85 and go back a decade earlier. The schedule that day, you don't have the Citrus and the Gator, but you had the Cotton Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, and the Orange Bowl. All 5 consecutive games. Dude, I mean, how much would you give for that schedule in one day?
I know, and I guess they don't want to do it that way because the games kind of run on top of each other, and they're not standalone. So, but look, they could easily set up something like a college football red zone where for that one day where you could whip around to the different games or something. You know, they could figure it out this day and age with all the channels they have that largely go unwatched, especially on New Year's Day. But, you know, I mean, when you're talking Citrus, Gator, Cotton, Rose, Sugar, Orange, and Fiesta on the same day, I just think that would be such a huge day for college football.
You know, the other thing was, and you can't do this now at the playoff, the other thing that was great about it is, you know, you'd have all those January 1st games, and then the next night would be the national championship, right? During the 90s and, you know, into the BCS era, like you weren't waiting around for those games to happen.
Exactly. So they didn't make you wait a week for the national championship game. The national championship game was standalone, which is understandable.
Yeah.
But it was only that game. So like in this season, for instance, the 95 season, the Fiesta Bowl was the championship game. So that game was played on January 2nd between Nebraska and Florida. This is a game we actually did for this. This is a game we actually did for this podcast way back. One of our first college football episodes between Nebraska and Florida.
Yeah,
the Tommy Frazier game. But I just look at this bowl schedule, and I think the major linchpin that makes it so special is the fact that all the games had good teams because there was only 18 games. I think it all comes back to that.
Yeah. Well, it's all about money. There's much more distribution, so every game can be seen really anywhere, wherever you're watching, phone, TV, any device, you can follow it, and they got to stretch out as long as possible. And I know a lot of college football fans will disagree with us. Hey, I love just having football. I love having more football, especially the bettors out there that now have legalized gambling in many states where they can bet all the way through, from mid-December all the way through January. And I mean, how much do you care, honestly, if you're not a gambler, about the last year, the January 3rd Idaho Potato Bowl, or the January 4th Armed Forces Bowl, or the January 6th Lending Tree Bowl?
Yeah, who is making money off those games? No one's going to them.
They make money off of TV rights, and they make money off of I guess the tickets and everything that's involved with it, because there's a reason why all these ESPN and so many different companies have bought bowl games and own bowl games, right? There's a reason why there's 41 of them. It's not because they lose money.
Yeah, no, I know. It's frustrating when you look back at this bowl schedule. You don't feel like it was that long ago, but I guess it was, where it was just perfect. And the biggest thing is it was reliable year after year.
Every year, yeah.
I could say, hey, look, on the 29th, Sun Bowl, Independence Bowl, Holiday Bowl. What a day. Now I don't know. I don't know what channel the games are on. I don't know what's going to be played on a certain day. Did this get moved to a college football playoff game, and is going to be played on some random day? It's just, what channel, is it on?
Go back 2 years. I mean, the 2018 season. Okay. This was they had your customary games on January 1st, but there was only 5 games that day on January 1st. January 31st that year had 6 games. 6 games on the 31st, New Year's Eve. So, and you don't even know, a lot of times, because the way the calendar is falling, and now in the playoffs trying to do what they do. I mean, the Fiesta and Orange Bowl a few years back was on December 30th. I mean, Cotton Bowl is the 29th because of the playoff and the way that structures everything. And, thankfully, I guess the Rose Bowl stuck to, hey, we're playing January 1st no matter what, so you can't move us if we're part of this playoff rotation. But otherwise, with the playoffs, you just don't know when these bowl games are going to fall.
Yeah, I think what made the bowl schedule so compact and so good too was, I think the thinking was back in the day, if we put a game on December 31st, like this season in '95, the Sugar Bowl started at 7:30 p.m. Hey, if we put a game on, it's got to be early enough where people watch it before they go out. If we put a game on at 8, 9 o'clock, people aren't going to be watching because they want to enjoy New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I
think that had to be a factor in why they scheduled the games the way they did, and I think it worked a lot better.
Well, what are you gonna do, Mike? We're old men now. We're telling football to stay off our lawn at this point. But
I'll tell you what, I want to go to one of those early morning, midday Florida bowl games.
Oh yeah, I've been to one.
That's what I want to do. I want to go to one.
I actually went to one when Alabama destroyed Michigan State back in 2010. Yeah, you have a night out. You wake up really early. Hair of the dog. You're going out to the stadium in a game that doesn't mean a whole lot, but there's still 2 really good teams playing in it, and then you have the rest of your day ahead of you. Yeah, dude, it's a lot of fun. So much
dude,
fun.
I could imagine, man. I'm getting chills by you just saying that.
you cherish it. Hey,
I'm a traditionalist, man. I don't know what to tell you. This really fires me up that I can't even look that forward to bowl season anymore. It's ridiculous.
Man, that's brutal, bro. But, I mean, even looking now with the playoffs, and this is the other point I wanted to make before we get out of here, but because now with football, with NFL where it is, you cannot challenge the NFL schedule on Sunday. So you go back to that 2017 playoff schedule, the 2016 football season. They had no games on January 1st. January 2nd was the Rose Bowl, Cotton Bowl, and Sugar Bowl. So, I mean, it's tough, man, the way it is now, but, who knows what it'll look like in 5 or 10 years from now. Maybe you'll even appreciate what we have now when the playoffs 32 teams, Mike, and they're playing, home games in the first round of the playoffs. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? You're right. Who knows? That's how it should be college football's motto going forward. Who knows? Because we're just throwing all tradition. A sport that is steeped in so much tradition. I think about the tradition of college football more than probably any other sport I follow. And they're just needling away at that tradition year after year after year.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, that'll do it for this episode, Mike. It's kind of a depressing look back at college football, but man, those were some great times when you had those games waiting for you on January 1st. And that week, you're right. The week you were like out of school too, for us at least, you didn't have either, whether it be high school or college, you were out of school and there's nothing to do, no responsibilities. You weren't paying any bills. You weren't having to worry about taking your kids anywhere. It was just wake up, hang out with my friends, and watch football.
Yeah, all right. Liberty Bowl, noon, ESPN, yeah. East Carolina, Stanford. I'm in.
You going to Sliders? Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
Those were the days. All right, well, let's close it out, Mike, on this mini. So we appreciate you listening. Please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. We would appreciate that, and we'd love to hear from you on your bowl memory. If you have one, connect with us on Twitter, Instagram. We're also on YouTube and on distantreplaypodcast.com.